This, folks, of course, is the mysterious case of Oribi Kontein. We are going to be spending quite a bit of time on this. It's going to be somewhat of a long video, so enjoy. And be sure to spread the word. Like, subscribe, and let's get his case a lot more attention than it has gotten, because there's some mysterious things in this case, and certainly more to come on that. Afterward, we will also be exploring more in depth some interesting, very important highlights related to, of course, Daniel Robinson and what's really been going on over there. Thank you again. This is it, folks. This is officially the first part where we will be diving into the actual fate and journey of Oribi Kontein, who disappeared and unfortunately ended up being found murdered at DuSable Harbor Lakeshore Drive. So it was right off of Harbor Lakeshore Drive in Chicago, Illinois. That's correct. The same exact area that Jelani Day and his classmates traveled to very, very often. Now, what's unusual about this area, folks, is you'll notice a lot of boats. That's right. A lot of boats. And they were there for more than one reason. We now know some different things about Mr. Kontein. That he did, enjoy the arts, and he loved boats. And he parked his car right there near 31st Street and Beach. And this is Mr. Kontein himself right here. The Chicago Police Department Marine Unit had to respond to the issues because of, them being so understaffed and there not being anyone who could tell a real verdict on what happened to Mr. Kontein. And it's been said that at this point they have ruled that it may have been a serial homicide of some kind. But they're still developing the details of exactly what kind of homicide it was. And he was seen at Lakeshore Drive on foot. So that's not that far from where these boats are, folks. And he was right there at 31st Street and Beach. So we're going to go there. We're going to go over to 31st Street and Beach. Because we want to get a clear picture on where he was when he was on foot, just as much as anything else when it comes to this. And 31st Street and Beach is essentially, basically, this area, folks. This is a beachhead right next to the Lake Michigan of Chicago, essentially. So his car was found out here near like a pier that we see here, just right on the side. And that's quite unusual. That's quite disturbing. You don't normally see that, where somebody will just automatically park and they'll wander off and they'll be found at the edge of a pier somewhere. So we're going to be investigating this, and we're going to be looking into really what happened by retracing some of Mr. Kontein's steps. This is an official bike path. They had like a kind of a motorcycle rink or something over here on the other side. There's a lot of odd places where somebody might park near the trees and kind of the park, the city boardwalk of the park. But most importantly, we want to know what went out here by the water and by this giant area of Lake Michigan, most of all, because that's where he was found, and that's where he ultimately died. So we're going to be going into this. Thank you again. Folks, it's very interesting. This is interesting because it's a profile of one of the Galarza brothers, probably the older Galarza. His uncle, of course, being heavily involved in Atlantic politics. So this is interesting because they were fans of pontoon boats. Very interesting. He has a kind of a dating site type of profile and so on, where Galarza is looking for other fans of actual yachts, of pontoon boats. Okay, I'm gonna have to tread very carefully with this, because I've tried to delete anything that ever mentioned Galarza going to these places, but here is an official pontoon boat rental store. All right, and this is in Antioch, Illinois, not that far away from apparently where Oribi Kontein washes up dead. That's correct. And they call it the SkipperBuds. It's a SkipperBuds pontoon boat association, and they do the boat shows right there in Antioch. So, and there's a few men like John Thain, who's kind of an associate of Galarza and of Mr. Matthew Everett. But I have to be careful. You know, I am going to come out and say it. I do believe Galarza visited the pontoon boat store, because, of course, this is going to lead to solving a murder eventually. But I have to be careful how my words are spoken. You know, I 100% believe he did visit it. This is called the SkipperBuds Pontoon Boating Association. And this is, you know, not even but a hop, skip away from where Oribi Kontein winds up dead in the river. And they, of course, were big fans of all these types of pontoon boats. You can see here they have one of the almost yacht-style pontoon boats on display. And they're doing another boat show, and what do you know? The boat show for this specific association is not that far from Beach Street, where Oribi Kontein died. So I believe it says a lot that the SkipperBuds are kind of an associate of Matthew Everett. And, you know, that's one of the big things we're going to look at. Thanks. The last thing I'll just say here, folks, because I have a feeling that I'll come back to it just for a second during Daniel Robinson also, is this is just something disturbing that should be kept a close eye on. It's one of the Galarza brothers' personal artwork galleries. And, you know, I've gotten threats as far as just a suspicious email from, you know, a cop or corrupt detective or something saying things, you know, don't you be saying anything about him, etc. And this is, and even a voicemail, to be honest. And this is proof positive that it's just time to triple down, because it's over the target. This Galarza guy, actually all the Galarza brothers, but the main Galarza, he's a serial killer, no question. And when you look at this, okay, there isn't any mistaking that at that point. You've got skull that's just obvious. You've got an anchor coming off of a pontoon boat. Yeah, he was involved in this. There's no question. And I'm almost just a little bit disturbed to find out how deep. Thank you. So, and of course they don't want it out there. Okay, that's why, though, folks, that I do what I do. This is SkipperBuds at North Point. They don't want that information out there because, of course, it involves potentially a murder investigation as things move along. And also the connections it has to Galarza. That's correct. But that's the reason why I triple down in doing what I do because it needs to get out there. People need to talk about this. They really need to talk about the fact that the Caterpillar company is directly near SkipperBuds. And SkipperBuds was directly next to where Oribi Kontein disappeared. And we're going to be looking at this a little bit more in depth, for sure. But at this point, you know, I'm not really concerned about you know what Galarza is going to do. This is Matthew Everett's profile on the Chicago, Illinois trails and so on. You know, he really doesn't know. They have no idea what they're messing with. They want to bring anything in the court or whatnot. They're bringing it with the state national. You know, there is no messing around with that. They will definitely not like what they find as a result. But I can guarantee you now, folks, Matthew Everett was involved, very possibly, in Oribi Kontein's disappearance. That's right. And Galarza as well. But what's disturbing about that, of course, is the fact that this place called SkipperBuds looks like an old abandoned warehouse. So it's almost unbelievable and really impossible to imagine anything but possibly shady deals going on here. That's right. And possibly even murder at this point. And so it's very important this information gets out there. Make sure to spread the word. We're going to be looking at exactly where Oribi Kontein walked across the street when he disappeared. So don't forget that. Thank you. You know, folks, it's perfectly understandable why. This is the North Point Harbor, 215 North Point, where SkipperBuds' other facility is located. But it's perfectly understandable why they don't want that information out there. They tried to stop me from recording certain things. Of course they don't want that information out there. They don't want it public, folks, because it potentially even involves an actual murder investigation. Because it's obviously not any coincidence, right, that SkipperBuds ends up being directly next to Oribi Kontein. So you can bet they don't want that information out there. But this is Winthrop Harbor, Illinois, folks. That's correct. And the one thing I'll say about that is not only was Everett a fan of Winthrop Harbor, but certainly so was Noah Nelson. Certainly Galarza was a fan, for sure, of Winthrop Harbor. And let's not forget Cara Boaster, who also frequented this area as well, happened to be a fan of Winthrop Harbor. Now, do you find it interesting or no that this place, that's right, the harbor, all of this, right, is directly next to the so-called Lake Michigan situation? It's directly next to Beach Street and all of that, where Oribi Kontein was never heard from again. We retrace Oribi's steps just a little. He was last seen missing from 3400 block of North Avers Avenue, right by Roscoe. Now when we go there, okay, look at this. This is what we see. Yeah, all the way up to late 2019, early 2020. Near Roscoe Street, we see an interesting pair of unmarked Kia cars or Ford cars, something to that effect. And there's just a strange feeling to this area. Even though this was in 2019, it's just not a great feeling. So we're going to be getting into it in our next part of the Oribi Kontein mystery, for sure. But something very important to leave you with here. SkipperBuds has expanded beyond what Bud Bertolino have ever imagined for his empire. It started in Wisconsin, Illinois, and it's expanded. It's actually expanded to Ohio and Michigan. Yeah, that's right, Michigan, overnight. We're big in the service area, storage, and parts business. A lot of boat dealers and pontoon dealers. We look at every area. We do everything we can now. So why is this important to know about SkipperBuds? Because it may indeed be the case that SkipperBuds ends up being tied not only to the Oribi Kontein issues, but also all the issues surrounding Jelani Brinson in Michigan, and also all the issues surrounding the other victim who disappeared in Chicago. That's correct. So this is a big deal. We're going to be talking a lot about Bertolino later. Thank you.